Rain pounded against Seattle Mercy Hospital like an angry symphony, each drop slamming into the emergency room windows, reflecting fluorescent light into scattered, glittering shards on the linoleum floor. Maya Jackson, 32, a Black American woman with curly hair hastily tied at the nape of her neck, gripped the wheelchair's armrest, her knuckles turning white against her brown skin. A violent contraction ripped through her body, powerful like a tsunami, forcing her breath into shallow, ragged bursts. The silver bracelet on her left wrist, a gift from a past she had tried to bury, glinted under the hospital lights, a bitter reminder of broken promises. Maya was not one to surrender easily. As an investigative journalist for the Seattle Chronicle, she had won awards for articles exposing injustices in the public healthcare system and racial inequality in impoverished neighborhoods. But now, in this cold emergency room, she was just a single mother facing her greatest fear: giving birth alone. Derek, her boyfriend, an ambitious real estate developer, had vanished 3 months ago, leaving behind half-hearted apology texts and a forwarding address that led to a dead end. Her sister lived in New York, thousands of miles away, and her mother had made it clear that an out-of-wedlock child was a mistake Maya had to fix on her own. How far apart are the contractions? The voice of the admitting nurse, a middle-aged woman with a name tag reading Lena Martinez, RN, came. The sound reached Maya as if from underwater, distorted by the pain that consumed every fiber of her body. 3 minutes, Maya gasped, struggling to steady her breath. Sweat streamed down her forehead, soaking into the thin hospital gown. Lena nodded, jotting a quick note on the monitor chart, her eyes sharp but not without compassion. "We need to take you up to labor and delivery right away," Lena said, her voice shifting from calm to urgent. "Your water's fully broken, and the baby's heart rate is slightly irregular." Maya bit her lip, suppressing a groan as another contraction hit. She didn't cry. She had learned long ago that showing weakness only made things worse. But inside, she was screaming, not from physical pain, but from the crushing loneliness. She had once dreamed of a family, of someone holding her hand through moments like this. Now, it was just her and the unborn child staring down an uncertain future. The automatic ER doors burst open, bringing the damp scent of rain and the chaos of a Friday night in downtown Seattle. Ambulance sirens, rushing footsteps, and distant shouting blended into a tense symphony. Maya closed her eyes, retreating into a corner of her mind where she could still control something. But the delivery room door swung open, and that fragile mental fortress crumbled. "We need Dr. Carter immediately!" A voice rang out from the hallway, sharp and commanding. Maya's blood froze. Carter? No, not here. Not now. Not when she was at her most vulnerable, defenseless in every way. She opened her eyes, and time seemed to stop. Ethan Carter walked in, tall and lean in green scrubs, his light brown hair streaked with hints of silver at the temples. He was a white man with piercing blue eyes that made Maya believe she could drown in them forever. Now, those eyes met hers, wide with shock, then quickly shuttered, replaced with the cold professionalism of a seasoned doctor. But Maya recognized him instantly. How could she not? 10 years, 4 months, and 16 days since the last time she saw that face. She had counted each day, a ritual to remind herself never to believe in love again. The chart in Ethan's hand slipped and hit the floor with a dull thud. Maya's name left his lips like a prayer, a curse, an echo of everything they had once been. She wanted to vanish, to sink into the hospital bed and disappear. Not like this. Not when she was exhausted, swollen, abandoned, her hair disheveled, and her face blurred by sweat. Not when she needed to be strong, for herself and the child about to be born. The irony was too cruel, as if the universe were playing some twisted joke. Ethan cleared his throat, regaining composure. "I'm Dr. Carter," he said, voice steady, as if they were strangers. "I'll be delivering your baby tonight." Another contraction hit, stronger, fiercer, pulling a cry from her that she couldn't suppress. Ethan was instantly beside her, his touch gentle yet firm, guiding her through the pain with practiced breaths. That touch was so achingly familiar that it burned like a memory of lying under the stars with him, dreaming of a future that never came. But the safety he once gave her was now an illusion, and Maya couldn't let herself believe in it again. "Don't!" she whispered through gritted teeth once the wave passed, her voice cold. "Don't look at me like that." "Like what?" Ethan asked, his gaze searching hers. And in that moment, she saw something unexpected. Not pity, but regret. Deep, dangerous regret. "Like you care." Her words sliced the air like a blade, erecting the wall she needed to survive. Ethan's jaw tightened, barely perceptible. "I'm your doctor tonight, Maya. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm here to ensure you and the baby are safe." The baby, her son, the child who would never know his father, just as Maya never truly knew hers. It was a vicious cycle, as if fate had ordained the women in her family to love too deeply and trust too unquestioningly. "He's in distress," Ethan suddenly announced, his voice shifting into pure clinical mode. "We need to prepare for possible intervention." The medical team around them sprang into motion, each person fulfilling their role like dancers in a well-rehearsed performance. Maya looked at Ethan for just a heartbeat and saw a flash of the boy she once loved, the one who had promised they'd change the world together despite the race and class barriers between them. That boy had lied. The man standing before her now was a stranger. But as the next contraction seized her, dragging her back into harsh reality, Maya understood something else. Sometimes the universe has a strange sense of humor. She was about to bring a new life into the world, with the very man who once taught her that love can die as swiftly as it is born. In room 228 and 47 of Seattle Mercy, under the harsh fluorescence, two hearts that once beat as one were about to face the longest night of their lives. Maya Jackson's labor pains came like violent waves, relentless and crashing, making it nearly impossible for her to focus on anything other than breathing and surviving each minute. In room 22847 of Seattle Mercy Hospital, the rain outside continued to tap steadily against the windows, blending with the rapid rhythm of her heartbeat, pulsing from the monitor. With warm brown eyes and neatly tied gray hair, Nurse Lena Martinez moved around the room with the ease of someone who had witnessed hundreds of births. But Lena's gaze wasn't fixed only on the monitors. She was watching Maya, sensing that the tension came not just from physical pain. "You okay, sweetheart?" Lena asked as she gently adjusted the fetal heart monitor straps. Her voice was soft, almost motherly, something Maya had rarely felt from her mother. Maya bit her lip, stifling a cry as the next contraction surged through her. I don't know," she whispered, her voice faltering. It wasn't that she was afraid of giving birth. She had mentally prepared for that. But the sudden reappearance of Ethan Carter, her former lover now serving as her delivering doctor, had shattered every emotional barrier she had built over the past 10 years. The silver bracelet on her wrist, a birthday gift from Ethan when she turned 20, flashed accusingly every time the hospital lights hit it. Lena sat on the chair beside the bed, her eyes sharp but non-judgmental. "I've been doing this for 26 years, she said, her voice low. "I know when a doctor and a patient meet for the first time, and when something more profound happens. You and Dr. Carter. Is it?" Maya cut her off, her voice cold but trembling. "We used to know each other. A long time ago." She didn't want to say more, but the pain and Lena's comforting presence seemed to unlock a door she had long kept sealed. Another contraction passed, leaving her drained, and before she could stop herself, she began to speak. "Maya said we met at Columbia University," eyes staring into the distance, as if stepping into a memory covered in dust. "I was a scholarship girl from Harlem, raised in a housing project where my mom worked 2 shifts daily to pay rent. Ethan, he came from a different world, a wealthy family in the Upper East Side where everything was predetermined. School, career, even the woman he was supposed to marry." Lena nodded, saying nothing, her hands still tending to the machines, but her eyes encouraging Maya to continue. "We met in a public policy class. I argued with the professor about inequality in healthcare, and Ethan listened. After class, he asked me to coffee and said he wanted to hear more. I thought he was just curious, but the coffee turned into long nights discussing dreams of changing the world. I wanted to use my words to expose injustice. He tried to open free clinics for communities like the one I grew up in." Maya's voice softened, drowned by memories of them holding hands under the streetlights in Morningside Heights, dreaming of a future without walls. But reality soon intruded. "His family didn't accept me," she continued bitterly. "His famous surgeon father called me an unsuitable girl. He told Ethan outright that loving someone like me, a black woman from the projects, would ruin his future. Ethan told me he didn't care that we'd get through it. But then..." She stopped as another contraction gripped her, and she clutched the bed rail. Lena held her hand, guiding her through deep, steady breaths. When the pain subsided, Maya went on, her voice now tinged with both pain and anger. "Then, he got accepted to Harvard Medical School. That was his dream, and his father's opportunity to take control. His father arranged everything: scholarships, internships at elite hospitals, even a marriage to Olivia Langley, the daughter of another wealthy family. Ethan started pulling away. He said he needed space, that med school was too demanding, that love wasn't enough to overcome our differences. But I knew the truth. He chose the easier path." Lena shook her head, her gaze heavy with empathy. "Men sometimes think they're protecting us, when they're just running from fear." Maya let out a dry laugh, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I saw him once more, 8 years ago, at a medical conference in Chicago. I was working as a reporter for the Chicago Tribune, covering healthcare reform. Ethan was a speaker, confident in a tailored suit, talking about high-risk deliveries. I stood at the back of the auditorium, hidden in the shadows. He didn't see me, but I saw the wedding ring in his hand. I looked it up afterward. Olivia Langley, blonde, gentle, perfect on social media. They looked like the dream couple. She even did charity work and hosted galas. Someone like me, who once had to choose between textbooks and food, could never compare." The silver bracelet on Maya's wrist shimmered again, mocking the pain she was spilling out. Lena touched her hand gently. "You've kept that bracelet for 10 years. Why?" Maya looked down at the piece of jewelry, her fingers absently brushing its worn surface. "To remind myself," she whispered, "that loving someone too much only leads to pain. That I should never let myself be that vulnerable again." But even as she said those words, Maya felt a crack forming in the walls she had so carefully built. Ethan's presence, even in the doctor role, had stirred emotions she thought she had buried. She didn't want to remember the nights they debated justice under the moonlight, or how he held her hand when she spoke about her challenging childhood in Harlem. She didn't want to remember, but the memories came flooding back, vivid and merciless. Lena stood, checking the fetal monitor once more. "Sometimes, the past doesn't return to hurt us," she said, her voice firm but kind. "Sometimes, it comes back to give us a chance to heal. But right now, you need to focus on your baby. He's waiting to meet his mother." Maya nodded, but inside her, another storm was building. Ethan Carter, who had once been her entire world, now stood just a few steps away, yet the distance between them felt as vast as an ocean. When the delivery room door opened, and Ethan stepped back in, his blue eyes met hers for a fleeting second, and Maya knew that the past had never truly left. It was standing right in front of her, and she would have to face it, even if every part of her heart screamed to run. Room 2847 of Seattle Mercy Hospital was strung tight with tension, like a taut wire. The rain outside had quieted, leaving only slow drops trailing down the windows. But inside, Maya Jackson's storm still raged. Each contraction was a battle, pulling her into a whirlpool of pain and fear. As an investigative journalist for the Seattle Chronicle, Maya was used to pressuring, from tense interviews with officials to long nights writing under deadline. But nothing had prepared her for this. Giving birth alone, with Ethan Carter, the ex-lover who had left her 10 years ago. Delivering her baby. The fetal monitor emitted steady beeps, but the baby's heart rate, as nurse Lena Martinez had put it, remained slightly irregular. Lena, her gray hair tied neatly back and her eyes sharp, moved around the room with the precision of a veteran. She checked the vitals and conferred briefly with another nurse, but kept a constant portion of her attention fixed on Maya. Lena said, "You're stronger than you think," placing a hand on Maya's shoulder in a moment of quiet reassurance before continuing her rounds. Maya gripped the bed rail tightly, the silver bracelet on her wrist flashing under the fluorescent lights like a cruel reminder of Ethan and broken promises. She tried to focus on her breathing, but the image of Ethan walking into the room, in green scrubs, blue eyes heavy with regret, kept replaying in her mind. He was a white American man, the son of a New York elite family, who once promised they'd change the world together, only to abandon her under family pressure and personal ambition. And now, here he stood, just a few steps away. Yet the distance between them felt insurmountable. The delivery room door swung open, and Ethan entered again, bringing a draft of cold air from the hallway. He had regained his professional composure, but Maya noticed the slight tremble in his hands as he held the chart. "Maya," he said evenly, "you're progressing well, but the baby's heart rate still needs close monitoring. We may have to intervene if it doesn't improve." She nodded, not trusting herself to speak. Another contraction hit, stronger this time, forcing her to bite her lip until she tasted blood. She didn't want Ethan to see her like this. She didn't want him to think she was still that vulnerable Harlem girl from 10 years ago. But the pain gave her no choice. It stripped away every layer of defense, leaving her bare in body and soul. Ethan moved beside her, his hands steady and gentle as he helped adjust her position. "Inhale, slow exhale," he instructed, his voice calm, carrying a warmth she didn't want to acknowledge. His touch was heartbreakingly familiar, evoking nights they lay together, his fingers running through her hair as they dreamed of a future without barriers of race or class. But that was the past, and Maya couldn't let herself drown in it. "You're doing great," Ethan said as the contraction subsided, but his eyes flicked to the silver bracelet, and she saw a flicker of pain pass across his face. He knew what it meant. The gift he once gave her. The symbol of a love he had abandoned. Maya wanted to rip it off, to erase every trace of him, but she didn't have the strength. From the corner of the room, Lena observed with an insightful gaze. "She's at 7 centimeters, she reported, her tone steady, but tinged with awareness of the emotional tension between them. We're moving fast. Ethan nodded, turning back to the monitor, but Maya noticed he avoided looking her directly in the eye. She didn't know if that made her feel angry or relieved. Part of her wanted to scream, to demand why he had chosen Olivia Langley, a white woman from a suitable family, instead of fighting for their love. But another part, trying to bring her son safely into the world, knew this wasn't the time. A sharp beep from the fetal monitor cut through her thoughts. Lena immediately checked the screen, her face tightening. "Baby's heart rate is dropping," she said urgently. "Maya, we need you to push with the next contraction." Fear surged in Maya's chest, but she nodded, summoning every ounce of strength. Ethan moved into position, his hands steady, but when his eyes met hers, they revealed a worry he couldn't mask. "Maya, I need you to focus," he said, his voice no longer just a doctor's. It was a plea. "You can do this for your baby." The next contraction came, and Maya pushed, pouring everything she had left into the effort of bringing her son into the world. The pain tore through her, not only physically, but emotionally, as if each push was ripping open old scars. Lena counted in a strong, steady voice. 1, 2, 3. "Keep going, sweetheart." Ethan was there, hands firm, guiding each step, but Maya could hear the tension in his voice. "The head is out," Ethan announced, his voice thick with emotion. "One more push, Maya. You're almost there." She gave it everything, the world narrowing to this moment. And then, silence. A miraculous, suspended silence. Before, a thin, vibrant cry rang out, shattering the tension. "It's a boy," Ethan said, his voice trembling, filled with a wonder Maya remembered from the days he spoke about the miracles of medicine. Lena swiftly handled the cord, and the baby was placed on Maya's chest. Warm, slick, and perfect. She looked down at her son, tears spilling freely. "Hi, baby," she whispered. "I'm your mama." Months of loneliness, of fearing motherhood alone, dissolved in the overwhelming love for this child. She named him Isaiah Daniel Jackson. Daniel, Ethan's middle name, was not a conscious choice, but when she said it aloud, she saw Ethan freeze, his eyes reflecting a question she wasn't ready to answer. He stepped back, allowing her a sacred moment with Isaiah. But Maya caught the expression on his face, a mixture of joy and pain that he couldn't quite hide. Lena smiled, noting down the vitals. 8 pounds, 2 ounces, 21 inches. A healthy little boy. She looked at Maya with pride, as if she had just won a war. But as Ethan turned away, checking equipment with unnecessary focus, Maya felt a new wave of emotion rising. She had brought a new life into the world, with the man who had once taught her how easily love can break. The delivery room, now quieter, was still heavy with the ghosts of the past, and Maya knew her journey was only beginning. Room 2847 of Seattle Mercy Hospital was now quieter, filled only with the soft beeping of monitors and the steady breathing of Isaiah Daniel Jackson, the newborn boy lying in a plastic bassinet beside his mother. Maya Jackson, still exhausted from the battle of childbirth, leaned back against her pillow, her brown eyes fixed on her son. Her curly hair, now messy and soaked with sweat, framed a face lit by a fierce love she never knew she had. As an investigative journalist for the Seattle Chronicle, Maya was used to facing painful stories: racism in healthcare, corruption in impoverished neighborhoods. But nothing compared to this moment when she became a mother. The silver bracelet on her wrist, a gift from Ethan Carter over a decade ago, glinted under the dim hospital light. It was a bitter reminder of the man who had once promised to stay by her side forever, only to leave her under pressure from his wealthy white family. Ethan, now the doctor who had delivered her baby, had brought Isaiah into the world, and the name Daniel she had chosen, matching Ethan's middle name, now hung between them like an unanswered question. With her gray hair and warm eyes, Nurse Lena Martinez stepped in, carrying a cup of water and a gentle smile. "You did it, sweetheart," Lena said, checking Maya's vitals. "He's healthy, and you're a wonderful mother. Get some rest. You've earned it." Maya smiled weakly, but her gaze stayed on Isaiah, as if afraid he might vanish if she blinked. "I don't know if I can do this," she whispered, her voice fading. "All of this. It's too much." Lena sat on the chair beside her bed, her eyes sharp but judgment-free. "No one knows how to be a mother right away. You learn, day by day, and how you look at that boy. That's the best start." She paused, her gaze flicking to the silver bracelet. "But I bet being a mom isn't the only thing on your mind. Dr. Carter, he's not just your doctor." Maya clenched her hands, her nails digging into her palms. She wanted to deny it and hold on to the wall she had built over 10 years. But Lena's presence disarmed her, like the mother she'd never truly had. Maya said, "He used to be everything to me." Her voice soft but heavy, until he decided I wasn't enough. Before Lena could respond, the door opened, and Ethan stepped in, still in his green scrubs. But his blue eyes carried a visible weariness. He paused at the threshold, as if unsure whether he was welcome. "Maya," he said, his voice even but carrying a sincerity that caught her off guard. "I wanted to check on you and the baby before my shift ends." Lena stood, exchanged a knowing glance with Maya, and quietly exited. She said, "I'll be back in a bit," leaving them alone. The air in the room grew heavier. Maya looked at Ethan, the man who had once been the center of her world, now standing there like a stranger. But something was different. He wasn't wearing a wedding ring, and that small detail made her heart beat faster than she wanted. "We're fine," she said coldly, trying to mask the storm inside her. "Thank you for doing your job." Ethan stepped closer, his hands tucked in his pockets as if restraining himself from touching something or someone. "Maya, He stopped and took a deep breath. "I know this isn't the best time, but I must say it. Leaving you was the biggest mistake of my life. Not a day goes by that I don't regret it." His confession hit her like a punch to the chest. Maya wanted to be angry and scream at him, but the sincerity in his voice gave her pause. "Don't," she said, her voice trembling. "Don't say things you can't take back. You made your choice, Ethan. You chose your family. You chose Olivia Langley. You chose a life that didn't include me. Don't pretend like you can walk back in and fix everything." Ethan bowed his head, his eyes heavy with remorse. "I don't expect forgiveness. I want you to know the truth. I was wrong, and I've paid for it every day since I walked away." He looked at Isaiah, and a soft, bittersweet smile crossed his face. "He's beautiful, Maya. You did something incredible." His compliment twisted something deep in her chest, but she refused to let herself soften. "That's my son," she said firmly. "Not yours. You're just the doctor, Ethan. Don't overstep." Ethan nodded, seemingly accepting the boundaries she had drawn, but his eyes still searched hers, as if trying to find the girl he once loved at Columbia. "I understand," he said hoarsely. "I'll be here if you ever need anything, medical or otherwise." As he turned to leave, Maya suddenly noticed something small but significant. The wedding ring she had seen on his finger 8 years ago at the Chicago Medical Conference was gone. Its absence confused her like a puzzle piece, no longer fitting the story she had told herself. But she didn't have time to dwell on it, because Isaiah stirred, letting out a soft whimper. Maya leaned down, gently lifting her son, feeling his warmth settle against her chest. She looked down at Isaiah's tiny face, his nose like hers, eyes holding strange wisdom, as if he understood the world before entering it. "We're going to be okay, aren't we?" she whispered, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. Lena returned with a fresh blanket. She looked at Maya and Isaiah, then glanced toward the door where Ethan had left. "I've worked with Dr. Carter for 3 years," she said quietly. "He's one of the best doctors I've ever known, dedicated and always puts his patients first. But he's also the loneliest man I've seen. I watch him work himself to the bone, taking the most challenging cases, like he's trying to outrun something." Maya didn't respond, but Lena's words rippled through the still waters of her thoughts. She didn't want to think about Ethan, or wonder what his life had been like these past 10 years, or why he no longer wore a ring. She had Isaiah now, and that was all that mattered. But as she looked down at her son, the name Daniel echoing in her mind, she knew the past with Ethan hadn't truly left. It was waiting just outside that door, waiting for her to face it. The faint light of dawn filtered through the curtains of room 2847 at Seattle Mercy Hospital, casting a soft glow over the small face of Isaiah Daniel Jackson, sleeping peacefully in his bassinet. Maya Jackson, investigative journalist for the Seattle Chronicle, sat on the hospital bed, her brown eyes quietly watching her son. Still weary from the delivery, she felt a fragile sense of peace, but her heart remained tangled in turmoil. Ethan Carter, her former lover, and now the doctor who had delivered her baby, had confessed that leaving her 10 years ago had been the biggest mistake of his life. His words, and the silver bracelet she still wore, a gift from Ethan, sat in her chest like stones. Nurse Lena Martinez entered, carrying a tray with a simple breakfast. "You need to eat to regain your strength, sweetheart," Lena said, her voice warm but sharp-eyed, as if she sensed Maya's unrest. "That baby's going to need a healthy mama." Maya nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. She kept thinking about Ethan, his eyes full of regret, and the small but haunting detail: he no longer wore a wedding ring. She tried to push the thought away to focus on Isaiah, but then her phone vibrated, cutting through the silence. The screen displayed a name that made her blood run cold. Derek. Derek, Isaiah's father, a successful real estate developer, had disappeared 3 months ago, leaving Maya to face the pregnancy alone. She hesitated, then answered on the 4th ring, her voice calm but cold. "Derek." "Maya, baby. I've been trying to reach you." Derek's voice came through smoothly but urgently. "My phone got cut off. Then I had to travel for work. I just found out. Our baby's been born, hasn't he?" She gripped the phone tighter, her nails digging into her palm. "Your son, Isaiah, was born 3 days ago," she said sharply. "He's healthy, 8 pounds, 2 ounces. Where were you when I needed you the most?" Silence hung on the other end, as if Derek chose his words carefully. "I'm sorry, Maya," he finally said, his voice lower. "I panicked. When you told me you were pregnant, I didn't know if I could be a father. But I want to make it right now. I want to see him. And you. I can be in Seattle tonight." Maya looked at Isaiah, her heart tightening. She didn't want Derek near her son after he abandoned her. But Isaiah deserved the chance to know his father, no matter how Maya felt. "Fine," she said firmly. "I'll be at my apartment. Don't expect me to welcome you like nothing happened." She hung up, feeling like she'd just run a marathon. Lena, standing nearby, gave her a look of understanding. "The baby's father?" she asked, though she didn't need the answer. Men have a way of making everything more complicated, don't they? Maya gave a dry laugh, but said nothing. She didn't want to think about Derek, Ethan, or anything except being a mother. But when Lena left, her phone vibrated again. A text from Ethan. "I hope you and Isaiah are doing well. If you need anything, call me anytime." The message was short and professional, but it made her heart beat faster than she wanted. That afternoon, Maya was discharged and brought Isaiah home to her small Capitol Hill apartment. Once a space where she wrote the articles that sparked policy change, it was now cramped with baby gear. A crib, diapers, and bottles. She placed Isaiah in the bassinet near the window, watching him sleep, and felt a wave of new resolve. "We've got this, baby boy," she whispered. At 6:30 p.m., a knock came at the door. Maya took a deep breath and opened it. Derek stood there, tall, dark-skinned, flashing the same charming smile that once won her over at a journalism conference 2 years ago. He held a bouquet and an expensive baby car seat, as if these gifts could erase 3 months of silence. "Maya," he said softly, "you look incredible." She crossed her arms, not inviting him in just yet. "Don't play games, Derek. You're here for Isaiah, not me." Derek nodded, his face growing more serious. He stepped inside, his eyes immediately drawn to the bassinet. When he saw Isaiah, his expression softened, genuine wonder lighting up his face. He looks like you," he whispered, gently touching the baby's cheek. "Can I hold him?" Maya hesitated, then nodded. She watched as Derek picked Isaiah up, awkward but careful, and momentarily, she saw a flicker of hope that he might truly change. But then Derek spoke again, his voice filled with smooth confidence. "I found a house in Bellevue, Maya. 3 bedrooms, a backyard, great schools. We can be a family, you, me, and Isaiah. You won't have to worry about money anymore." His offer hit her like a cold wave. "We?" she repeated, her voice sharp. "There is no we, Derek. There's Isaiah, there's me, and there's you, if you choose to be a father. You disappeared for 3 months. No call, no explanation. And now you think a house will fix everything?" Derek gently laid Isaiah back in the bassinet, his eyes clouded with confusion. "I know I messed up," he said, "but I'm here now. I want to do the right thing, for him and you." Maya turned away, gazing out the window as the Seattle sky dipped into twilight. She thought of the stories she had written, exposing injustices people like Derek, wealthy, privileged, often ignored. She thought of Ethan, who had shown up when she was most vulnerable, despite their pain, and she wondered, could she trust Derek, or was he trying to repair his image? Her phone buzzed, cutting through the silence. Another message from Ethan. "I just wanted to make sure you got home safe. Rest well." Maya looked at the text, feeling an unexpected warmth spread through her. Derek noticed the shift in her expression. "Who is it?" he asked, a trace of suspicion in his voice. "The doctor who delivered Isaiah," she replied, setting the phone down. But Derek's gaze lingered on her as if sensing something deeper. Maya looked at him, then at Isaiah, and knew that her choices, between Derek, Ethan, or perhaps simply herself, would shape her son's future forever. Maya Jackson's small apartment in Capitol Hill, Seattle, had never felt so cramped. Once a space where she wrote investigative reports for the Seattle Chronicle, exposing injustice in healthcare and housing, it was now overflowing with baby gear. Diapers, bottles, and a crib pushed up against the window. 2 weeks had passed since Maya brought Isaiah Daniel Jackson home, and each day had brought a new challenge. A strong Black American woman, who had once stood toe-to-toe with powerful officials in tense interviews, Maya never expected that motherhood would make her feel so helpless. Tonight, at 2 a.m., Isaiah cried without stopping. his wails echoing through the tiny space-like accusations. Maya had tried everything: feeding, diaper change, checking his temperature, lullabies. Yet the baby kept screaming with astonishing force. She paced the living room with Isaiah in her arms, her body so tired it felt like she was moving through water. Her chest ached, her head throbbed, and the fear that she wasn't strong enough to be a mother began to creep in. The silver bracelet on her wrist, a gift from Ethan Carter, her former lover, and the doctor who delivered her baby, glinted under the dim light like a reminder of wounds that hadn't fully healed. "Please, Isaiah," she whispered, her voice hoarse, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I don't know what you need anymore." But his cries only grew louder, as if protesting the whole world. In desperation, Maya picked up her phone and scrolled through her contacts. She didn't want to call Derek, Isaiah's father, who had recently returned with promises of building a family, yet still filled her with doubt. She didn't want to bother her sister in New York, thousands of miles away. And then she saw the name Ethan, the white American man who had once been her first love, the one who confessed that walking away from her 10 years ago was the biggest mistake of his life. She hesitated, but Isaiah's cries pushed her past the edge. She called. "Maya?" Ethan's voice came after 2 rings, alert despite the late hour. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" I'm not okay," she said, her voice breaking, a sob escaping before she could stop it. "I don't know what to do. Isaiah won't stop crying. I'm failing." "Don't say that," Ethan replied, his voice firm but gentle. "I'll be right there. Give me 20 minutes. He hung up before she could protest. Maya stared at her phone, a mix of relief and shame washing over her. She didn't want Ethan to see her like this. Disheveled hair, milk-stained pajamas, panda eyes from exhaustion. But she was too tired to care. She rocked Isaiah to soothe him, but the crying didn't stop. Exactly 20 minutes later, there was a knock at the door. Maya opened it, and there stood Ethan, still in his scrubs from the hospital, carrying a small bag, as if he'd been prepared. His blue eyes scanned her, not with judgment, but with concern. "May I hold him?" he asked gently. Maya handed Isaiah over, feeling both grateful and defeated. She watched in awe as Ethan began a slow, rhythmic dance, holding Isaiah in the colic hold, his arm cradling the baby's belly, swaying gently. Isaiah's cries began to soften, turning into faint hiccups, and within 5 minutes, he was asleep, head resting on Ethan's shoulder. "How did you—" Maya whispered, eyes wide. She collapsed onto the couch, her body finally releasing. Ethan smiled, a gentle curve she remembered from their Columbia University days. He said med school, internships, and hundreds of fussy newborns, placing Isaiah into the crib with the care of a seasoned doctor. Sometimes babies are overstimulated. They need a specific movement to calm their nervous system. But you did everything right, Maya. Isaiah felt your tension, which doesn't mean you did anything wrong. His words felt like medicine, but also a stab to the heart. "I used to be good at everything," she said quietly. "I wrote articles that changed laws and stood up to influential people without blinking. And now, I can't even get my baby to sleep." Ethan sat on the chair across from her, maintaining a respectful distance, but his eyes never left hers. "You're not making things worse by being tired," he said, his voice steady. "You're doing the most powerful thing, loving your child enough to feel his struggle as your own. That's not failure, Maya. That's strength." She looked at him, her heart racing faster than she wanted. Ethan wasn't just her doctor. He wasn't just the ex who had walked away under pressure from a wealthy family and a planned marriage to Olivia Langley. He was the man who drove across the city at 2 a.m. because he heard pain in her voice. But she couldn't forget the past. Not when Derek, Isaiah's father, had just returned with dreams of a family she wasn't sure she wanted. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice low but sharp. "Why do you care? After everything that happened?" Ethan was quiet momentarily, his eyes drifting to Isaiah, as if searching for the answer in the baby's sleeping face. "Because I know what it feels like to be lost in the dark, wondering if I'm strong enough," he said, voice rough. "And because 10 years ago, I didn't dare to be the man you needed. I can't change the past, but I can be here now if you let me." His words came like a wave, loosening the wall Maya had so carefully built. She wanted to believe him, to think the man before her was no longer the boy who chose the easier road. But she was afraid that opening her heart again would lead to another wound, one that wouldn't just hurt her, but Isaiah too. Isaiah stirred in his crib, letting out a soft whimper, and Ethan immediately stood, gently rocking the crib, watching him care for her son with such ease and tenderness. Maya felt something shift inside her. Not forgiveness, not yet, but a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to face this journey alone. 3 weeks after bringing Isaiah Daniel Jackson home to her small Capitol Hill apartment, Maya Jackson began to sense a new rhythm to life, one that was anything but easy. As a Black American woman and an investigative journalist for the Seattle Chronicle, Maya was once used to facing societal injustice head-on, from racial disparities in healthcare to local government corruption. However, single motherhood had blurred that identity, making her question whether she was still Maya Jackson, the award-winning journalist who uncovered the affordable housing scandal, or just a worn-out mother struggling through sleepless nights. This morning, Maya sat in front of her laptop in the cramped apartment, Isaiah sleeping peacefully in the crib beside her. Seattle sunlight filtered through the window, casting a glow over the silver bracelet on her wrist, a gift from Ethan Carter, her former lover, and Isaiah's delivering doctor. Since that night, Ethan showed up at 2 a.m. to soothe a crying Isaiah. He had become a quiet but dependable presence, sending thoughtful texts or bringing her coffee when she needed to stay awake. But Maya still kept her distance, afraid that letting him back in would reopen wounds from 10 years ago, when he had left her under pressure from his powerful white family and an arranged engagement to Olivia Langley. Her phone vibrated, pulling her from her thoughts. It was her editor, Sarah Nguyen. "Maya, I know you're on maternity leave, but we need you for an investigation," Sarah said, her tone brisk and direct. "There are rumors of corruption in the city's public health program. You're the best person for this. Will you take it?" Maya hesitated, glancing at Isaiah. She missed her work, missed anchoring herself in stories that mattered. But the thought of leaving her son in someone else's care unsettled her. "I need time to think," she replied, though deep down, she already knew the answer. Her work had always been how she reclaimed control and reminded the world and herself that she was more than just a mother. She was a voice that mattered. That afternoon, Maya went to Seattle Mercy Hospital to meet a source for the story. She left Isaiah with a trusted neighbor. Her heart was between relief and guilt. As she walked into the hospital lobby, the familiar scent of antiseptic and hurried footsteps surrounded her. While waiting at reception, a voice from a nearby auditorium caught her attention. "Thank you all for attending today's seminar," the voice said, calm, resonant, confident. It was Ethan Carter. Maya froze, heart skipping a beat. She moved toward the auditorium door, peeking through a crack. There he was, Ethan, in a deep navy suit, standing on stage, discussing healthcare access in underserved communities. He said, "We cannot abandon the most vulnerable," his eyes alight with conviction. Everyone deserves care, regardless of income or background. His words brought her back to their nights at Columbia University, debating social justice under streetlights. She used to believe Ethan would open a free clinic in neighborhoods like Harlem, where she had grown up. But he had chosen another path, one carved by his family's expectations, Olivia Langley, and upper-class white society. So why was he here now, voicing ideals he had once left behind? She turned to leave, but Ethan ended his talk and stepped out, immediately spotting her. "Maya," he said, surprised and genuinely pleased. "What are you doing here?" "Interviewing someone for a story," she replied coolly. "I didn't know you'd be here." Ethan smiled, that same smile that still made her chest tighten. "I'm trying to convince the board to fund a community clinic. What do you think about the idea?" Maya crossed her arms, her gaze sharp. "It sounds like something we used to dream about in college." "But you gave that dream up, Ethan. What brought you back?" Her question cut deep. She saw it in his eyes. "I lost my way," he said hoarsely. "After I left you, I thought following my family's expectations would bring happiness. But I was wrong. I've spent 10 years trying to make it right, one patient at a time." Maya didn't answer right away. She wanted to believe him, but the memory of him walking away, telling her love wasn't enough to overcome race and class, was still raw. She said firmly, "I'm glad you found your ideals again, but don't expect me to believe everything can return to how it was." Ethan nodded, accepting her boundary. "I'm not asking that. I hope you see I'm trying, not just for me, but for the people you've always fought for, the people without a voice." Before she could respond, her phone vibrated. A message from Derek. "I'll be in Seattle this weekend. I want to see Isaiah and talk about our future." Maya read it, a familiar weight pressing down on her shoulders. Derek, who had vanished during her pregnancy, was now back, offering her a house in Bellevue and the promise of a picture-perfect family. She still didn't trust his motives. Ethan noticed the shift in her expression. "Is everything okay?" he asked, concern etched in his voice. "It's Derek," she replied, not knowing why she was being honest. "He wants to see Isaiah." Ethan didn't speak, but his jaw clenched, his restraint visible. "He's the boy's father," he said evenly. "If you need anything, I'm here." Maya looked at him, her heart torn. Ethan, who had shown up when she was at her lowest, asked for nothing in return but the chance to be present. Derek, who had abandoned her, was now pushing his way back in with polished promises. And she, a journalist who once changed public policy with her pen, now had to reclaim her identity to make the right choice for her son. She turned away, walking toward the elevator. "Thank you, Ethan," she said softly, sincerely, "but I need to handle this myself." As the elevator doors closed, Maya looked down at the silver bracelet and felt a new strength rising. She was not just a mother, not just the woman Ethan once loved, or the one Derek had left. She was Maya Jackson, a truth seeker, a fighter, and she would find a way to balance heart and mind for her son and herself. Seattle on a June afternoon. Rare sunlight slipped through the gray clouds, casting a soft glow over the bustling streets. Maya Jackson sat in a cafe on Pine Street, and Isaiah Daniel Jackson slept peacefully in the stroller beside her, a Black American woman and investigative journalist for the Seattle Chronicle. Maya savored a rare quiet moment amidst the chaos of new motherhood and returning to work. Her investigation into corruption in the city's public health program was progressing. Still, her mind was torn between two men. Derek, Isaiah's father, who had promised her a future in Bellevue, and Ethan Carter, her former lover, who had reappeared when she was at her most vulnerable. The silver bracelet on Maya's wrist, a gift from Ethan back in college, glinted as she stirred her latte. Since the night he arrived at 2 a.m. to help soothe Isaiah, Ethan had become a quiet yet reliable presence in her life. Whether through brief check-ins or showing up with coffee and silent support, he was there. But his confession at the hospital, that leaving her had been the greatest mistake of his life, still echoed within her, tearing her between cautious distance and unspoken trust. A figure outside the cafe window caught her attention, pulling her from her thoughts. Still in green scrubs from Seattle Mercy Hospital, Ethan stood on the sidewalk, speaking into his phone. His posture was tense, and his free hand ran through his light brown hair, a habit Maya remembered well from their idealistic college days at Columbia. She was about to look away when he ended the call and caught her gaze through the window. A shy smile tugged at his lips, and he stepped inside. "Maya," Ethan said, his voice warm but tentative. "I didn't know you were here. How's Isaiah?" "Sleeping well, for the first time all day," Maya replied, motioning to the stroller. "And you? You look like you've just run a marathon." Ethan sat across from her, his blue eyes showing clear signs of fatigue. "I just lost a patient," he said, his voice calm but heavy. "She was 24 in her first pregnancy. We did everything we could, but sometimes it's not enough." Maya felt a pang in her chest. She knew how demanding Ethan's work in obstetrics was, but seeing him this vulnerable was new. "I'm sorry," she said sincerely. "Her husband, is he okay?" Ethan shook his head, eyes distant. "He asked me if we missed something. I've gone over everything 100 times in my head, but the truth is, I've been distracted lately. Because of you, Maya." His words struck like a stone skipping across still water, rippling through her carefully guarded calm. She tightened her grip on her coffee cup, trying to keep her voice level. "Please don't blame me for your work, Ethan." "No, that's not what I mean," he said quickly, leaning in. "I need to tell you the truth. About why I left Columbia, about Olivia, about everything. You deserve that much." Maya's heart raced, but she forced herself to stay still, to listen. The silver bracelet suddenly felt heavier on her wrist, a reminder of the day he chose another life, pressed by his elite family and their expectations for a suitable marriage with Olivia Langley, a white woman from the upper class. "All right," she said softly. "Tell me." Ethan drew a deep breath, his eyes searching hers as if afraid she might walk away. "My father pushed me into Harvard, into a life he mapped out. Internships, a career, and a wife like Olivia. But that's not the real reason I left you. I was afraid, Maya. Afraid of how deeply I loved you. So much that I was willing to give up everything. Med school, my family's approval, the future I thought I wanted. I'd never felt anything that strong before, and it terrified me. It felt like the ground beneath her shifted. So, you chose to leave?" she asked, her voice sharp but trembling. "Choose the easier life, with Olivia, instead of fighting for us?" Ethan dropped his head, as if her words sliced clean through him. "I tried to convince myself it was about practicality, class, race, distance. But the truth is, I was a coward. I married Olivia because she was the safe choice, the one my father wanted. But she wasn't you, Maya. The marriage lasted 3 years, and every day, I knew I'd made a mistake. She left because she didn't want to live with a man who loved someone else." His confession crashed over her like a wave, sweeping away years of assumptions. She had believed Ethan chose Olivia because she was perfect. Blonde, upper class, a seamless fit in his world. But now he was telling her he had never stopped loving her. Maya wanted to be angry and push him away, but something in his voice, raw and unguarded, made. Then why now? She asked, her voice soft bum. Why tell me this now, when I'm trying to raise a child and have Isaiah? And Derek? Ethan didn't flinch. His eyes stayed on hers. Because I'm tired of pretending you're just part of my past. Because seeing you with Isaiah, watching your strength, I realized I can't keep living in fear. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I need you to know that I love you, and I'll do anything to prove that if you let me. Before Maya could respond, her phone buzzed. A message from Derek. I'm arriving in Seattle tonight. We need to talk about Isaiah's future. She stared at the screen, feeling its weight settle on her shoulders. Derek, with his promises of a family. Ethan, with a truth that threatened to upend everything. They pulled her in opposite directions. She stood, hands on the stroller. I need time, Ethan, she said, her voice trembling but steady. I can't make any decisions right now. Not for me, for my son. Ethan nodded, his eyes heavy but calm. I understand. I'll wait, Maya, as long as it takes. As she stepped out into the fading light of Seattle's afternoon, the sun still shone, but a storm was forming inside her. She was a journalist, a mother, a woman who had once been deeply wounded. And now she had to navigate her heart between the past, with Ethan, and the future Derek offered, for Isaiah and for herself. Maya Jackson's small apartment in Capitol Hill, Seattle, echoed with the soft cries of Isaiah Daniel Jackson. But this time, Maya had grown more accustomed to soothing her son. As a Black American woman and investigative journalist for the Seattle Chronicle, she was slowly finding a rhythm again, balancing motherhood with her career. Her investigation into corruption in the city's public health program was nearing completion, giving her back the sense of control she had lost in those first exhausting weeks of motherhood. But her heart remained entangled between two men, Ethan Carter, her former lover who had confessed his undying love, and Derek, Isaiah's father, who had returned with promises of a family. The silver bracelet on Maya's wrist, a college gift from Ethan, glinted as she changed Isaiah's diaper. Ethan's confession at the cafe, that he had left her out of fear of the intensity of their love, and that his marriage to Olivia Langley had been a mistake, had shaken the walls she'd carefully built. But now Derek, with his offer of a house in Bellevue and the role of father, was pressing her to choose. Maya knew the decision wasn't just for her, but for Isaiah's future. At 7 p.m., a knock echoed at the door. Maya took a deep breath, placed Isaiah gently in his crib, and opened it. Derek stood tall, dark-skinned, and sharply dressed in a tailored suit, holding a gift bag full of baby toys. The smile that once disarmed her at a journalism conference 2 years ago now made her cautious. Maya, he said softly, you look radiant. Where's Isaiah? She pointed toward the crib without inviting him in. He just finished eating, she replied, her tone calm but firm. What are you here for, Derek? I hope it's more than just dropping off gifts. Derek stepped inside, placing the bag on the table. His eyes scanned the cramped apartment with a flicker of discomfort. He said, I came to talk about us, sitting on the sofa. I know I was wrong to walk away when you were pregnant. I panicked, Maya, but I'm ready now. I want to be a father, and more than that, I want us to be a family. The house in Bellevue is prepared. 3 bedrooms, good schools, everything you and Isaiah could need. Maya crossed her arms and leaned against the wall, her eyes sharp, the same look she used when confronting officials in her investigations. A family? She repeated, a note of dry irony in her voice. You left me for 3 months, Derek. No calls, no texts. I went to every appointment alone, worried about whether I could do this alone. And now you show up with a house and expect me to forget all that? Derek looked down, but then met her gaze again, his expression earnest. I'm not asking you to forget, he said. I'm trying to make things right. I've thought about it a lot, Maya. When you were pregnant, I was scared I'd turn into my father, a man who ran from his family under pressure. But I don't want Isaiah to grow up without a dad. I want to be there for him. And for you. Maya felt the sting of anger rises in her throat, but held it back, for Isaiah's sake. She sat across from Derek, her voice low but cutting. Be honest with me, Derek. Are you here because you genuinely want us, or feel guilty? Because you want to prove to yourself, or others, that you're a good man? Derek hesitated. He seemed thrown off for a moment, caught in the space between truth and defense. Then he exhaled, voice softer. When you were pregnant, I was seeing someone in Portland, he admitted, avoiding her eyes. It wasn't serious, but I thought I wouldn't be tied down if I could run from the responsibility. I was wrong. When I found out Isaiah was born, I knew I couldn't walk away. And you, I still love you. His confession cut deep, but not from heartbreak. It confirmed what Maya had suspected. Derek had returned out of obligation, not genuine love. She rose, walking to the window, looking out over a Seattle swallowed by twilight. I appreciate your honesty, she said more calmly than she expected. But love isn't about doing the right thing out of guilt. Isaiah deserves a father who shows up. But I can't pretend we're a family after what you did. Derek stood and moved closer, his voice urgent. I'll prove it, Maya. I'll stay in Seattle more and be there for Isaiah. And if you give me a chance, I'll earn back your trust. Maya turned, meeting his gaze with unwavering resolve. Isaiah needs you, and I won't stop you from being his father. But between you and me, Derek, there's no more if. I need to focus on my son and myself. Derek paused as if realizing nothing he could say would sway her. He nodded slowly, his expression heavy. Then I'll start by being a father, he said, and the rest, I'll respect your decision. He walked over to the crib, gazing at Isaiah with a softness that was real. Then, without another word, he turned and quietly left the apartment. Maya felt a weight lift from her shoulders as the door clicked shut. She cradled Isaiah in her arms, soaking in his warmth, and knew she had made the right choice, not just for herself, but for her son's future. Just as she set Isaiah back down, her phone buzzed. A message from Ethan. I hope you and Isaiah are okay. I just finished a tough delivery. It made me think of you. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. Maya stared at the screen, her heart skipping. Ethan, with his quiet patience and honesty, was becoming a steady part of her world. But after his confession, that he had never stopped loving her, she knew that opening her heart again would be risky, especially after closing the door on Derek. She sat on the sofa, glancing at the silver bracelet, and asked herself, did she still have the courage to believe in love again? Or would the scars of the past forever keep her guarded? Outside her window, Seattle pulsed with life, and Maya knew her journey, as a mother, a journalist, and a woman, was far from over. Maya Jackson's apartment in Capitol Hill, Seattle, had become warmer and cozier now, with children's drawings on the wall and the cheerful laughter of 4-month-old Isaiah Daniel Jackson filling the space. As a Black American woman, an investigative journalist for the Seattle Chronicle, Maya was slowly regaining her rhythm, balancing work and motherhood. Her expose on corruption in the city's public health program had stirred the city into reevaluating its policies, giving her a renewed sense of purpose. But within her heart, another battle raged. After turning down Derek's offer to rebuild a family, Derek, the biological father of her child, Maya had begun cautiously opening herself back up to Ethan Carter, her former lover, her son's delivery doctor, the man who once broke her heart by walking away under pressure from his wealthy white family. That pain still lingered like a ghost. The silver bracelet on Maya's wrist, a college gift from Ethan, glinted as she typed on her laptop, the window's light casting a glow across her face. Ethan had become a regular presence in her life, not just through thoughtful texts, but through quiet evenings helping with Isaiah or reading medical journals beside her while she worked. His recent confession, that he still loved her and never stopped, shook her. But loving Ethan again meant risking her heart, and she wasn't sure she was ready. One evening, after Isaiah had fallen asleep, Ethan arrived with a pizza box and a sheepish smile. He said to use a meal you didn't have to cook, he said, the box on the table. His blue eyes, once the dream she lost at Columbia, now held a softness that warmed her, yet stirred unease. Thanks, Maya said, sitting on the sofa and keeping her distance. But you don't have to do this, Ethan. I'm okay. Isaiah's okay. Ethan sat across from her, his gaze searching hers. I'm not doing this out of obligation, Maya, he said, voice low. I'm here because I want to be, because of you and Isaiah. But I feel like you're still keeping me on the outside. His words hit like a blade, cutting at the fear she'd tried to hide. Maya crossed her arms, voice trembling beneath its sharpness. What do you expect me to do, Ethan? Pretend you didn't leave me 10 years ago? Pretend you didn't choose Olivia Langley, your family, or a life without me? I'm trying, but I'm scared. Scared that if I let you in, you'll leave again. And this time, it won't just be me who gets hurt. It'll be Isaiah too. Ethan bowed, as if her words were a weight he'd always carried. I understand that fear, he said, his voice raspy. I've lived with regret every day since leaving Columbia. My marriage to Olivia, it wasn't love. It was a mistake I made to satisfy my father. She told me the truth when she left. I never really belonged to her, because my heart was always with you. Maya's pulse quickened, but she fought the pull of emotion. Then why didn't you tell me sooner? She asked. Why wait until I had Isaiah, until my life became even more complicated? Ethan stood, walking to the window, gazing out over a Seattle glittering in city lights. He said I feared losing you again, returning to face her. When I saw you in the hospital, pregnant, strong, alone, I realized I couldn't keep pretending I was over you. But I also knew I had no right to ask for anything. I just needed you to know. I'm here. Not just for today, for as long as you'll have me. His words made the ground beneath her shift. She wanted to believe him. But the betrayal, the memories of nights she cried alone in Harlem while he started a new life with Olivia, still burned. She said softly, I saw you turn down that job offer in Atlanta. You said it was a big opportunity, but you stayed in Seattle. For me, didn't you? I don't want you to give up your career for me and regret it, like you did 10 years ago. Ethan stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. It's not a sacrifice, Maya. Atlanta was an opportunity, but here, with you and Isaiah, is where I belong. I've learned that a career means nothing if it costs me the most important thing I've ever had. Before Maya could respond, Isaiah stirred in his crib, letting out a small whimper. She immediately rose to cradle him, the warmth of his tiny body calming the storm inside her. Ethan came beside her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder, a familiar and new gesture. He said quietly, I'm not asking you to decide anything right now, but I promise you this. I'll be honest. I'll be patient, and I'll prove I'm not the man who walked away 10 years ago." Maya looked at him, her eyes torn between doubt and hope. She thought about her work, her relentless pursuit of truth, and wondered if she could summon that same bravery for her heart. "I need time, Ethan," she said, voice soft but firm. "And I need more than words." Ethan nodded, his eyes never leaving hers. "I'll give you both." And for the first time, Maya believed he might mean it. After Ethan left behind the pizza and a lingering warmth, Maya held Isaiah and looked out over a Seattle swallowed by night. She was a journalist, a mother, a woman who had been hurt. But she was also learning to trust again, in Ethan and herself. Tonight's conversation hadn't solved everything, but it had opened a door she wasn't quite ready to close. The Beacon Hill Community Center in Seattle buzzed with laughter, soft background music, and the vibrant energy of a local health fair. Maya Jackson, investigative journalist for the Seattle Chronicle, adjusted the baby carrier strap, holding 5-month-old Isaiah Daniel Jackson close to her chest. As a Black American woman, Maya had reclaimed her strength through her work. Her recent expose on public health corruption had led to sweeping policy reforms. But today, she wasn't here to take down institutions. She was here as a reporter and mother covering a free clinic initiative co-founded by her former lover and Isaiah's delivery doctor, Ethan Carter. The silver bracelet on her wrist, Ethan's gift from their Columbia University days, caught the light as she jotted notes in her notebook. Since rejecting Derek's offer to become a family and cautiously rebuilding a relationship with Ethan, Maya's life has shifted. Ethan's patience had spoken louder than promises, helping with Isaiah, bringing her coffee, or simply sitting in quiet companionship while she wrote. Their candid conversations about the past, about how he left her under pressure from his wealthy white family and married Olivia Langley, had made it clear. Rebuilding trust would be a long road. The fair was lively, with booths offering blood pressure screenings, nutrition consultations, and free vaccinations. Maya interviewed an older woman from the International District, Mrs. Chen, who shared that she'd been using expired insulin because she couldn't afford new supplies. "I don't want to burden my children," Mrs. Chen said, her voice trembling. Maya scribbled down the quote, feeling that familiar fire that had always driven her to write truth to power. At another booth, Maya spotted Ethan, wearing a crisp white shirt and jeans, kneeling to comfort a young Latina girl while her mother underwent a blood sugar test. He said, "You're a brave little star," handing her a sparkly sticker. He looked up and met Maya's eyes. That smile, warm and a little bashful, made her heart flutter. "Maya," he greeted, standing to approach her. "Here for the story, I assume?" "And a little curiosity," she replied, nodding toward his booth. "This free clinic reminds me of the dream we discussed at Columbia, bringing healthcare to places like Harlem." Ethan nodded, his eyes lighting up with passion. "I spent years going the wrong way," he said. "But people like Mrs. Chen or the Morales family, who avoid hospitals for fear of immigration consequences, remind me why I became a doctor. I want to do right by them, not just because I should, but because I believe in this." Maya felt a familiar spark, the kind that once lit their long nights debating justice and equity. She interviewed Ethan, noting plans to expand the clinic into permanent satellite locations in underserved neighborhoods. "You could make a real impact with this article," he said gently. "Your voice has always been powerful, Maya." His words warmed her, but she kept a cautious edge. "I hope so," she said, glancing at Isaiah, who giggled in his carrier. "But I'm doing this for people like Mrs. Chen and my son." A familiar voice interrupted. "Maya, there you are." Lena Martinez, the nurse who had helped during Isaiah's delivery, approached with a radiant smile. "I see you and Dr. Carter are doing something special," she teased, eyes twinkling. "This clinic's a miracle. But I'm betting it's not the only thing bringing you two closer." Maya laughed, cheeks flushing. With her gray-streaked hair and sharp intuition, Lena always saw the unspoken. "It's just work, Lena," she replied, even though she didn't believe her words. Lena tilted her head, watching Ethan speak fluently in Spanish with an elderly patient. "He looks at Isaiah like that baby is his," Lena said softly, "and he looks at you like you're his entire world. Don't be afraid of happiness, Maya. You deserve it." Lena's words landed like a pebble in Maya's thoughts, sending ripples through her tightly guarded emotions. She looked at Ethan again, his gentle focus, the way he treated every patient with respect and care. He wasn't just a doctor. He wasn't just the man who left her. He was someone fighting for the same ideals she believed in: health, justice, dignity, and hope for the forgotten. Maya continued gathering stories of resilience. A single mother worried about her asthmatic child, an immigrant fearing deportation for seeking care. These people reminded her of Harlem, where her mother worked double shifts to raise her, and of why she became a journalist in the first place. When she returned to Ethan's booth, Isaiah reached out toward him instinctively, and Ethan lifted him with practiced ease. So natural it made Maya's heart ache. "He's growing so fast," Ethan said, beaming at Isaiah. "How are you holding up, Maya? How's the piece coming along?" "Inspiring," she replied, flipping her notebook closed. "These stories remind me why I do this. And you're building the dream we once shared." Ethan met her gaze, unwavering. "We could still share a dream, Maya," he said quietly. "Not the one we had back then, but something new, if you're willing." His words hung between them, and Maya felt a flicker of hope and fear. She had turned down Derek to protect Isaiah and herself, but with Ethan holding her son and fighting for what they both believed in, she wondered, did she have the courage to let love back in? The fair began winding down, but Maya knew her journey. As a journalist, a mother, and a woman learning how to love again, was beginning. The Beacon Hill Community Center in Seattle still glowed in the golden late afternoon light as the health fair slowly ended. Maya Jackson, investigative journalist for the Seattle Chronicle, stood amid booths packed up, with 6-month-old Isaiah Daniel Jackson beaming from the carrier on her chest. As a Black American woman, Maya had weathered a year of trials. From giving birth alone and turning down Derek's proposal of a family, to rebuilding trust with Ethan Carter, the former lover who once broke her heart a decade ago. Her article on the free clinic, co-founded by Ethan, had just gone to print, putting pressure on the city to expand medical services for underserved communities. But today, her heart wasn't focused on work. It faced a much bigger decision. The silver bracelet on her wrist, a college gift from Ethan, glinted in the sun as she glanced at him across the space. Ethan, a white American doctor, spoke with an immigrant family, calmly explaining their test results in fluent Spanish. His dedication, once the spark that drew her in at Columbia, was now evident in every action. Comforting Isaiah in the dead of night, fighting for health equity, standing beside the forgotten. His confession, that he once left her out of fear of their intense love, and that his marriage to Olivia Langley had been a mistake, had deepened their bond, but hadn't erased Maya's fear of trusting again. She stepped toward Ethan's booth. Isaiah reached for him with a radiant smile. Ethan lifted the baby into his arms, his eyes tender, as he looked from Isaiah to Maya. "How's the article doing?" he asked warmly. "I bet it's making waves." "Front page," Maya replied, flipping her notebook closed. "But I'm not just here for the story today. She took a deep breath, standing as if on the edge of a cliff. Nurse Lena's words from the fair echoed in her mind. Don't be afraid of happiness. She looked at Ethan, the man who had returned not just with apologies, but with consistency, presence, and quiet courage. Ethan, she said, trembling but steady. 10 years ago, you left because you were afraid of how much we loved each other. I spent a decade building walls, so I wouldn't feel that pain again. But then you came back, not just with words, but with actions. You cared for Isaiah. You fought for people like Mrs. Chen. You lived the ideals we once dreamed of. I'm still scared, but I'm tired of living in fear. Ethan didn't move. His eyes locked on hers like they were afraid to miss a word. Maya reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Opening it revealed a simple silver ring. She sank to one knee in the middle of the community center, her voice clear, even as her heart thundered. Ethan Carter said, I used to think love was something that left. But you taught me that real love comes back and chooses to stay. Will you marry me? Time seemed to freeze. Volunteers and families nearby paused, soft murmurs rippling across the room. Still holding Isaiah, Ethan widened his eyes, astonishment melting into joy. He knelt before Maya, placed Isaiah gently back into her carrier, and took her hand. Maya, he said, his voice husky, you're the best thing that ever happened to me. 10 years ago, I was a fool to leave. I won't make that mistake again. Yes, I'll marry you, today, tomorrow, and every day after. He helped her, pulling her and Isaiah into a tight embrace. Applause erupted from around them. Maya felt tears slide down her cheeks, not from sorrow, but from a peace she had never known. Ethan kissed her, soft but sure, like a vow without words. Later that evening, Maya and Ethan sat in her new 2-bedroom apartment in Fremont. Isaiah lay on the playmat, giggling as he rolled back and forth. Sitting on the couch with a leather notebook in hand, Ethan was writing a letter to Isaiah. Little one, he wrote, in the careful penmanship of a doctor. Your mother taught me that the most valuable kind of love is the kind that stares fear in the face. I promise to be here, for her and you, every day. Maya watched him, feeling a quiet sense of completeness. Not perfection, but truth. She thought of her journey, from a scholarship girl from Harlem to a journalist who helped shift policy to a strong single mother. Derek now became a distant father, sending support money, making calls, but no longer interfering. With shared values and unwavering love, Ethan had become the family she chose. Seattle sparkled beyond the window, cloaked in twilight, brimming with challenges and possibilities. Maya knew the road ahead, filled with work, motherhood, and love, wouldn't be easy. But as she reached for Ethan's hand and felt his warmth, she knew they would face it together. One day, one choice, one brave moment at a time.